All natural chicks, solar chicks, no electricity chicks. I had a bitter broody birdie battle for some months and ended up with a single little chick. Hello fellow homesteaders, I would like you to meet Oasis Farm Homestead's perpetually broody birdie. She hatched my first batch of Arizona chicks. This one's my favorite. It better be a hen. These sweet babies stayed with that hen until they were about a month old, but her perpetual broodiness called her to sit on more eggs. But they were feathered enough to be able to handle being in the camper brooder. And I've had trouble because they can fit through the run fence. So I have them just in this little pen during the day, and they kind of get scooted around the pen and sometimes outside of the pen. It's nice because they get to hang out with all the flock and meet everybody, so when they do get big enough to not fit through the fence, they'll be welcomed into the flock. Through the years, I have raised my flock with chicks always around, including chicks of different ages being brooded together. So when these guys come out to be with the rest of the flock, these hens will have no problem. Having a broody isn't really what it's all cracked up to be. Like, it's wonderful to have a hen to hatch you eggs, but they're a pain in the butt. They've got an attitude, they peck at you, they steal eggs, and depending on how good of a broody mama they are, it can cause some serious chaos. I had a bitter broody birdie battle for some months. Essentially, Void, the one who's brooding now, started going broody. And sometimes broodiness can spread through the flock. Other birds are like, ooh, I want to do that too. So they join in. So I had two other birds that decided to be broody, and they couldn't figure out what they wanted to do, if they actually wanted to sit. They were fighting over nests, breaking eggs, stealing eggs. It was some chaos. So at one point I was totally over it, and I separated the second two broody birds and put them in a crate for a timeout for a couple of days and broke their broodiness. And went ahead and left Void to brood the several different stages of development eggs that the other two had left behind. So the eggs that Void is sitting on are at kind of 3 different stages because it was 3 different broody birdies. So the first little dude who hatched, he hung out with me in the tent and in a little pouch, because I had really nowhere else to put him. I wasn't really ready for having chicks, as I was hoping the broodiness would work out to my favor, and it definitely didn't. But I've been brooding birds without electricity for a long time. And what I mean without electricity, no heat light, no heat plate, just heated water bottles. And that wasn't even always needed. This little dude needed minimal extra warmth. This single little chick is able to maintain its own heat and warmness through the night, even though they're all by themselves. Now I'm excited, and I'm sure this little dude is excited, because they are not alone anymore. So this little dude is definitely getting a little big for their pouch, so I'm gonna have to figure out something else for this little dude and the new little dudes. Actually, while I was sitting here, I realized that my friends had given me this little cooler. It's kind of a perfect size to fit into the tent with me, so I can keep an eye on them, as well as if they get chilly at night, they'll wake me up, I'll get up and warm up more water bottles. I'm totally not set up incubating broodery wise, but I can manage. All the little chickies are all tucked in and quite warm and cozy in there, even without a water bottle. When you feel under here, it's actually super warm. So even though there are 4 little hatched today-ish chicks and my older chick under there, they all keep themselves pretty warm as long as they have a little bit of insulation. After a full night without any other heat source from themselves, let's check on these little babies. So cute and fluffy. Hello. Hello. Everybody's fine. Nobody got up to peep that they were cold last night. So even though it was a bit of a chilly night up here in the tent, they did just fine. No heat required, little chicks. Through my experiences of raising chicks, that when you have about 5 to 10 chicks and they can hang out and cuddle together in the space that they are in, they can keep themselves pretty warm. Of course, well insulated in some sort of fashion. Right now I'm using this little cooler for these couple of little chicks. And as they get bigger, their sleep space, of course, will get bigger until they can go into this brooder space. But until then, I just listen to them, keep my eye on them, and if they get a little chilly, just heat up some water. With all those experiences of raising chicks in a no electricity manner, I have found that it makes chicks more resilient and able to adapt to fluctuating temperatures, even as adults. In Montana, our temperatures ranged from 100 degrees to -60 or colder. So I needed birds that could handle both. And over time of hatching birds, buying birds, adopting birds, I really discovered that they become way more tender when they have that constant source of heat, like a heat lamp or a heat plate. When you think about a mama hen, she takes her chicks out of the nest at 3 days old. And of course, if they get cold, they cuddle with her, but they are outside in some fluctuating temperatures. And depending on how you do it, your birdie could be sitting outside with her chicks in the rain. I've seen it, I've had it. I've had broody hens hatch chicks in the winter and you got little chicks running around in the snow. So as long as you can cultivate an environment that keeps them warm enough, but also allows them to develop with fluctuating temperatures, in my experiences, it really helps your chicks and their resilience to the weathers. And so far here in Arizona, my birds have done super well. Even though it got a little extra hot for our area, I didn't lose a bird to the heat. And of course, I'm not worried about the winters here because my birds, it's tropical winters here. Being able to brood chicks without an extra heat source, like a heat lamp or a heat plate, has made it really beneficial for being off-grid and on solar. Through the journey, I was only able to incubate eggs with a hen, all natural incubating. And that was my goal for the flock, was to breed a flock that had plenty of broody birdies, so I wouldn't have to run an incubator with the not quite big enough solar setup we had had. And then I built the incubrooder. This was a super cool project that was extremely successful. I hatched out so many birds. The only issue with this incubrooder was I was hatching all of these chicks and needing to keep them warm once they had to come out of the incubrooder. So the problem with the incubrooter was that a heat element takes a lot of energy. And so I was trying to figure out which one, whether it was the incubator or the brooder, that I wanted to put that heat into. So instead of putting energy into those chicks via heat lamp or heat plate, I did a hot water bottle. And it worked really well. I didn't lose any chicks due to them being chilly just using a water bottle. And the more chicks I had, the more self-contained heat-wise they were. And they would go outside as soon as it was nice. The sun would come out and all the chicks would go out and be outside all day until I brought them in when the temperatures got a little bit chilly outside. So I don't brood my birds in just a brooder inside. They are brooded outside in the sun. It's super cool just to raise all natural chicks. I like to call them solar chicks because for the most part, the only energy they need is the sun. And of course, a little bit of propane, but it's nice because here in Arizona, I can leave water out in the sun and it gets hot enough that I have a hot water bottle for the night. So I'm not even using propane to heat the water to keep the chicks warm. So not only does brooding chicks in a non-electrified type of way beneficial to your solar bank, but also to the chicks because it can make them tougher and more resilient when it comes to pretty seriously fluctuating temperatures. Their bodies start off young, understanding that they are going to have to deal with fluctuating temperatures. And when you come from somewhere like Montana with that 100-degree high to -70-degree low, not in the same day of course, but throughout the year, you need birds that can handle those fluctuations. And raising them from chicks with that idea helps them really deal and makes it easier for you and your birds to handle those really hot days and those really cold nights. Brooding chicks without the ease of a light or a heat plate isn't for everybody. But for me, being off-grid, it's definitely been worth it. Takes a little babysitting and paying attention, but you definitely get to know your little chicks. Happy hatching! Peace!